All right, this is the December. Let's see, December video chat with fans. While I fiddle with the camera. This is one of everything's late, but things are happening. That's just the best way to sum it up. This is before I used to do these monthly chats with people. This would be one of those times I would just hide, and because I hadn't gotten enough done, and I'd be kind of embarrassed about it. So I would just hide and work on things, and people would think I wasn't alive anymore, and that worked fine for me. Then I reemerged with the videos, so it's kind of like that. But I'm still gonna try to save Christmas here. I may have to go back on one thing I said a little bit. Right now, I'm pretty much trying to get Freeman's Mind and a Christmas episode out before Christmas. I think I can do it. If I cannot, though, I'd like to prioritize the Christmas episode and just have Freeman's Mind right behind it. I mean, just like a day or two, if that happens. So I said Freeman's Mind would be like the next video I release, and that's still happening in spirit. I guess that's the best I can do, but not literally. That may or may not happen literally. So but it's going to keep coming after that. So that's the thing to focus on. There'll be more Freeman's Mind. I had a lot of delays. I don't know. I figure I probably shouldn't start this video with a bunch of excuses. So, wait, what? Okay. I mean, I can tell people more about those if people want. Probably the most entertaining one was I've completed a chunk in the process of me being legal here, where again, the immigration office is so backed up that I finally figured out how to do this after multiple trips, how to actually see a clerk. What we had to do was show up at 1 a.m. outside the office, and there used to be a list you sign up for people to get in the line in the morning. But now that's kept under guard. So my wife said it was like something out of a movie, because there were a bunch of Ukrainians there sort of guarding the list in a car. It almost felt like a drop-off deal in like a spy movie or something, and went and signed the list. Then we had to come back at 7:30 in the morning, same office, so taking a train there and back, trying to get times. And it didn't leave much time for sleep. And then basically wait there for 7 hours. Then I was able to see a clerk. So I got that chunk done. So, yeah. Okay, so that's a sample of what I've been dealing with, is why there's been no videos. Now, the other news doesn't really affect much of anything, at least on your end, is what I said before. I signed up with GOG because they offer me this contract to get like a percentage of sales. Well, they canceled that. They just said business decision. Oh well. I think maybe they owe me something, but literally I haven't gotten any money from them. So it's not that they're withholding. I don't think I hit a threshold I'm supposed to meet. It's kind of their loss, because I'm planning on doing something that probably would have permanently boosted traffic to their site, but whatever. It's that they were sort of the add-on to that anyway. So I'm not canceling a project I had in mind for that. But I didn't think there was going to be any conflict of interest before, and now it's like certainly no conflict of interest, because I'm not going to be getting anything. So I thought I should announce that. Yeah, for this month, Freeman's Mind, Christmas episode, hopefully more. I think I may reschedule the play session with fans. I was going to do that on the 22nd. Now I'm thinking maybe I'll be cutting it too close, getting everything done in time. So I'll probably do that sometime after Christmas. Or maybe I'll have a double thing on my birthday. Or I'll do a streaming session and maybe have another one on my birthday or something. I don't know. Yeah, and maybe somebody can confirm this. Somebody emailed me saying that the crew, it can only handle 8 players in an instance. Now I thought, is that just for official events? Like if you want to start a race, I know you can only have 8 players, or just 8 players in that zone, period. And if that's the case, that wouldn't make a good multiplayer game to do with fans at all, because then it'd just be 7 other people, you know? I also want to get like a giant crowd together. So I don't know, maybe that might scratch the crew off the list if that's the case, if somebody wants to confirm that or not. Let's see. Oh yeah, so my birthday is on the 28th, people are asking. If you want, you can check the old birthday video I did on the channel. Now, pretty much everything there still applies. So, let's see. Yeah, okay, I guess I'll jump on the questions. That's all I can remember for announcements. So, yeah, again, this is the sort of mid-hibernation chat, because I would have just been hiding otherwise. And actually, I'm getting hot in here because I have lights on me. Give me a second. All right. Okay, Ross, since the festival season, how are you and Magda celebrating the holidays? Oh yeah, my wife wanted me to mention her Twitter is Amazing Magda. She keeps wanting me to promote that, so I figured why not? I can do that in the chat. Let's see. Do you have a more conventional Christmas at home, or do you visit her family, or do you do something more out there? Yeah, we've mainly just been visiting her sister and her like immediate family. Usually have a dinner there and open some presents, I guess. So it's nothing too remarkable, but I tend not to understand most of what happens in the conversation, so I sometimes just sort of mess with the dog. But it's not very interesting. So. Oh yeah, well, and they're asking, do you open presents on the evening of the 24th or morning of the 25th? Apparently, it's a big tradition here. Christmas celebration is pretty much the 24th here. That surprised me, and I tend to forget it. So, yeah, it's almost like 25th is just the observation of the day afterwards. So it comes a day early, essentially, here. Okay. Ross, you made it clear that you only use a PC for gaming. I was wondering, what are some of your favorite console exclusives that you've played through emulation? And are there any console exclusives you want to play but can't due to no emulation for the systems that the game is on? Yeah, well, this is one of those where I may have to like plead the fifth on some of them. I mean, I try to generally follow that rule that people mentioned where, you know, if the game's not for sale by the publisher, so it's only through third-party market, I kind of consider that fair game at that point. But this is not the case anymore. But at one point, Castlevania Symphony of the Night was like that. That one was fantastic. I've played, actually, not all of them were through emulation, but some were like through friends or borrowing. But I've played several of the Super Nintendo classics, like Donkey Kong Country series, of course, Super Metroid, Super Castlevania, Super Contra. I've played the old Sonic the Hedgehog games. Sonic the Hedgehog, it's not necessarily my favorite gameplay. I think the old ones have like great atmosphere, like great music and kind of levels and everything. Okay, what are some other ones that... eventually I'm probably going to catch up on a bunch through emulation and do some of them, especially through PlayStation era onwards through VR. Let's see. I have played Zelda Ocarina of Time. I thought that was pretty good, though. I don't know if that would hold up for me as much now, since I've played more since then. But let's see. I'm trying to think. I'm way behind on a lot of them. As for ones I would like to play, yeah, there's several. Let's see. I guess The Last of Us is one of them. One that was gonna be out on PC, but then Sony came and snatched it up. Was it? Geez, I always get them mixed up. It's either Heavy Rain or Hard Rain. One of them's the game. One of them's a movie with Randy Quaid. So, so whichever one. Heavy. Okay, Heavy Rain. So Hard Rain's the movie with Randy Quaid. That's just so-so. Uh, let's see. Forza Horizon. That's one I want to play. There's one I forgot the name of it. Again, it's thanks for PlayStation 4. It's some game that takes place at like a ski lodge or something like that. It's might be like a horror mystery sort of thing. I'm sure somebody will mention in the chat in a minute. Let's see. What are some others? I'm kind of interested in the Resistance series, although that's one I would pretty much... Okay, Until Dawn, that's the name of the one I'm thinking of. Interested in, although that's pretty much any first-person shooter on the console, I'd almost have to play through emulation just because I'm garbage at first-person shooters with a gamepad controller. I'm sure there's some more. There's a lot of ones I'm not like dying to play, but I'm sure I'd be interested in, like for like driving games that I think that are console exclusive. So I think the early Burnout games were like that. Let's see. Yeah, maybe the Killzone stuff. I don't know as much about that one. And a lot of people are saying, was it? It's either Detroit or Become Detroit or something like that. A lot of people were saying that is good. And there was another zombie game on PlayStation 4 that looked okay. Again, I don't remember the name of it. So yeah, that would, if I could play all those, I would scratch things off. Like the good thing, I like how a lot of them, if you wait long enough, some of them are sort of trickling in the PC down the PC. Like because I got to play Jet Set Radio. Detroit Become Human. That was what was it? Alan Wake stopped becoming an exclusive. Again, though that one was announced for PC, then became an exclusive, then went back to being multi-platform. Let's see. What are some others that... I don't know. I'm drawing a blank, but that would... If I could play those that I mentioned, that would... Those were several I'd like to play, so... Oh yeah, it was Eternal Darkness, I think, it was like GameCube or something. That's one I want to play too. A lot of people have said that one was good. Okay, yeah, I guess I could go on a long time just talking about that, but yeah, I mean, it's not the... Yeah, I mean, I don't know. With consoles, it's just... I'm getting spoiled on PC because I can kind of monkey with the controls, or I can be assured I can play that game in the future, you know, if I set it up correctly, or especially I might be able to tap into it with VR and then have the resolution I want, that sort of thing. So I don't know. For some games, I feel like it doesn't matter. Others, it's like I feel kind of held back on. So I don't know. Yeah, let's... Oh yeah, that was another one. I've heard it's not the best, but the theme intrigued me. It was, I think it was called like Naughty Bear. The idea is like you're playing basically a misanthrope teddy bear inside this happy teddy bear land and raising hell. That sounded like the sort of thing that might appeal to me. So, let's see. Yeah, okay, so I should keep moving on. What's a criminally underused game mechanic? Well, see, it's sort of... I mean, I don't know. I feel like a lot of games, it's... I'm trying to think of ones that really, I feel like I'm being held back on. Because it varies from game to game. And I don't know, a lot of them get pretty refined. It's... Well, okay, it's not really a game mechanic, but I really meant it in the crew episode. Any game that has a day and night cycle, give me the option for time scale. Like, I want that, because that sets the mood for so many games. Like I hate this. I think it's gotten better, but like one of the standards for a while was from when they did it for Grand Theft Auto 3, where they have like 1 minute equals 1 hour, and it's just like it's always changing. I just didn't like that feel. I like it to be just real gradual, or just freeze the time, freeze the time of day. I really prefer that. So, and it's not, I wouldn't think it'd be a terribly difficult thing to add. But let's see, underused game mechanics. Maybe people in the chat have some ideas. Let's see. Because, okay, like, because I mean, in driving games, car tends to drive, first person shooters, you can aim at things. And, real time strategy games, those are all pretty refined. I guess, see, none of these are like way underused. I guess for graphic adventure games, give more options to beat the game if you just cannot figure it out. Like, I guess get past something, but I mean, that's not criminally underused, and some are using that now, so. Let's see. Okay, well, somebody's asking several questions about what I'm going to do in Freeman's Mind 2. If it's not a technical question, I've decided, I'm afraid I'm vetoing those just because I want to keep it more of a surprise for when people watch it. So, you can always ask me after the fact. You can ask anything about it prior to the current episodes, but I decided I'm going to like halt questions that I think could spoil things. So if it's like a technical question, that's fine, but let's see. So sorry, I'm skipping that one. Do you ever think you'll cover the original Fallouts on your show? Yeah, that's one of those where I'm not like dying to make a video on it, but I think I could say enough things to kind of give my own take on the series so it wouldn't blend into like what every other person has said about Fallout. Best of my knowledge, I don't know. I mean, but yeah, maybe I'll get to that next year. I'll see. Let's see. Okay, you mentioned that you like metal that has more of a tune to it. I'm curious exactly what you meant by that. And he's asking which bands would get an all-time favorite award. I need to catch up too much. I want to give enough of an informed opinion. But the first part I can answer. Okay, but more of a tune, it's like, like if you look at like some classic heavy metal songs, like For Whom the Bell Tolls, if you start hearing the notes to that, you're going to recognize it. It's like, it's the sort of thing you kind of hum along, get in your head. It's like, or, a lot of like white Rob Zombie stuff has stuff like that. Whereas a lot of heavy metal, it all just sort of blends into the same thing to me, where it's like, and it's just, I don't mind it, but it's like not really gonna stick in my head. So I don't even remember if it's white or Rob Zombie. It's like another one I'm thinking of is like, it's like notes you can kind of follow along, and that I like heavy metal like that a lot more. So for any metal aficionados, maybe you can explain what the proper terminology is for what I'm talking about. See, that's the problem. I'm a music enthusiast. I'm in no way a music expert. So, kind of like games, but maybe less so. So he's saying try in flames, Ross. Okay. So yeah, something that has a melody to it. That tends to. No, those are the ones that stick with me a lot more. Ross, what do you think about Black Mesa's Zen trailer? Okay, I haven't even watched it, I'm afraid. Yeah, I don't know. I think I've just spent too much time inside Freeman's mind to be the right person to appreciate Black Mesa anymore. It's just, I mean, I'm sure some people, you've had, you have a game you've played so much, or like a movie you've seen so many times that, yeah, you remember liking it, but you're just not going to appreciate it now because your brain's saturated by that sort of thing. For some people, it doesn't matter, but I think for others that, ironically, I'm not the best person to ask about that. So, um, yeah, I mean, it's not that I'm like I can't handle Half-Life universe because I would like to do more civil protection because there'll be something new within it. But yeah, I mean they're adding some new stuff, but I'm guessing it'll probably be interesting because they spent so much time on it and they're willing to veer more out there for the alien world because that's the sort of thing that never really reemerged in Half-Life 2. But somebody's saying Slaughter of the Souls is great. Another person saying Montage Rock. Okay, so yeah, I'll mention some names here. Okay, in Requital, you've talked about how movie-based games need to fill certain criteria for you to enjoy them. I mentioned Indiana Jones and the Fate of Atlantis. Is that essentially your favorite movie-based game? And or do you have any others that you like? Okay, well, let's see. What are some of the best ones then? Yeah, it might be my favorite. I mean, see, there's a lot of other good ones, but ones that I personally am not that into. Probably, I know a bunch of people have said like the Chronicles of Riddick games are good. I may check those out because I sort of like the Riddick setting, but for those, it all depends on like how out there do they get. Because if it's just Riddick taking out some bad dudes and then that's the end, I don't know. But if it's Riddick going to this weird planet and then just encountering just this other reality bending stuff, then sure, I'd be happy to play that. So, yeah, again, I have not played okay, I did play, was it The Mummy Demastered? It was essentially like, it was sort of a Metroid clone. I thought it was all right. I mean, the gameplay was good. I like the graphics. Actually, I thought the music was kind of depressing. I didn't really like that. But it was a good enough game. So it's more like I was happy to play another Metroid clone inside a movie-based shell, so. There's several I was interested in, but then the reviews say they're bad. Like, I think Reservoir Dogs, I heard was like that. Even though the movie I thought was just okay, I was warming up to the idea of a game based off of that. Was it, I think it's like Battle Los Angeles or something, the one where the aliens invade. But again, reviews say the game's not good. That Walking Dead game where you're supposed to like travel across the country, that sounded like a great idea to me. And then I hear it's very bad. So let's see. I'm trying to remember. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, so while that might be my favorite, I'm not the expert on that either. So, it's just what I've been exposed to and that happens to grab my interest. I mean, what are some other good movie-based games? I mean, okay, a bunch of people say Alien, was it Isolation is good. I'll see. I don't know. Again though, it's like I know the movie. I know the range of what to expect, but I guess that could be pretty neat, especially in VR or something. That might get more intense. Yeah. I've played some of the Blade Runner game, but again, it was a similar sort of thing stopping me. Have you tried Soma? No, I haven't. I still need to play that. Soma. I have played Penumbra though. Yeah. Oh, okay. Hey, there's actually that. Yeah, this is how my thought process is. I have played another movie-based game that was pretty good. Alien versus Predator 2. Although I didn't complete it. I beat the Marines and I beat the Predator, and I didn't finish the Aliens mode, so the Aliens campaign. So yeah, maybe I could play more of that because I'll say that the game's better than the movie. The game Aliens versus Predator is much better than the movies Alien versus Predator. So yeah, that's a game that had like it's a game that's it's better than it should have been for the mechanics because that's one where they really have some stuff going on with asymmetric gameplay because the way you play each race is completely different. So yeah, I mean, that wasn't my all-time favorite game, but I thought it was okay. And you know, I might even play the newer Alien versus. Yeah, okay. There's at least 3 different Alien versus Predator games. I think there's another one that was made in the '90s, but because there's Alien versus Predator, there's Alien versus Predator 2, and then there's expansions like Primal Hunt or something like that. And then I think they made another one, Alien versus Predator or something. So I might play the newer one. I think that was supposed to be really gory from what I heard. See, I mean, that wasn't my favorite game ever, but from a game's mechanics perspective, like if you're someone who's really into like different mechanics or first-person shooters, you should probably play that one because it'll definitely give you something to think about because you have the different vision modes for the Predator and self-healing, and the aliens, they can climb on walls, the ceiling, and they have to use more stealth. So it's yeah, somebody's saying the '90s one is an arcade beat 'em up. So okay, there's at least 4 Aliens versus Predator games. My guess is they're all better than the movies, the Alien versus Predator movies. Yeah, so that's yeah. I forgot I played that, so or most of it. But yeah, I'd rather. I guess of those games though, it's the same thing though because I kind of want to see her veer off course. Like they find a new alien race, or you know, there's some other mysterious force going on. You know, I don't know. I want that sense of the unknown in these kinds of games. So those are both great settings, Predator and Aliens, but I want more. You know, not just sort of like a safe side story. You know, I want the one that gets kind of nuts. So. Okay, let's see. Ross, if you had to fight any fictional character you've created, who would you pick? Well, the problem is I haven't played. I haven't created enough I haven't created enough of a roster to really pick from. Because I've stuck mostly. I mean, I have all kinds of ideas, but I've stuck mostly to the series videos. So, because yeah, I mean, somebody were mentioning Mike and Dave. I mean, they're both cops, ready to. I wouldn't want to fight them. That's one thing they're probably trained well on how to do is take down some guy who's not the best fighter coming to fight them. You know. And Freeman has no problem fighting dirty, I would think. Although he could have the possibility of panic, but. Yeah, I'm afraid I don't have a good answer to that one. Okay, so let's see. Keep going. You've said in the past you play driving racing games mostly for the environments and setting. But is there any car in particular you always like to have in driving games? And is there any car you'd always thought would be cool to own? Not particularly. I mean, I'm really kind of indifferent on it because like with owning a car, for instance, again, some people put way more importance on this sort of thing than I do, but I mean, I'm mostly using it to get from point A to point B. And it's like, let's say you have a really fast car. Well, there's very few places you can use it legally, and even fewer places where you can even access the speed of that car compared to just a regular car. I mean, like a top speed or something. I mean, maybe if you drive on the Autobahn or something. Because, I mean, in the past, I drove a 91 Ford Festiva that the handling on that was incredible. I mean, it's just like, in fact, when I sold it before I moved, like the guy who bought it says, like, yeah, it's a go-kart. That's how he described it. He knew what he was getting when he bought it. And I don't know how. I do not know how fast that car went because the speedometer topped out at 85 miles an hour, and I definitely hit that once when I was running late to a wedding with a friend, and we got lucky in that there was a car on the highway in front of us that was just flying. So I just kept them like at the edge of my sight and just matched their speed. Whatever that was, it was more than 85 miles an hour. So, I'm not sure I would have really, there would have been much real world difference between that and a sports car for how I was using it. But I don't think I've ever even ridden in a sports car, to be honest, or known someone who had one that was. But as for cars, I mean, again, this is total layman's point of view. I mean, I guess I could judge ones by, I like the way some look, some look nicer than others. So I'm basically just judging the car body. In games, I tend to like the looks of, let's see, was it Corvettes? Those have a sort of a zippy looking feel to them. Porsches, those kind of nice things, nice sort of shape. Aston Martin cars can kind of have like this kind of luxurious look to them that looks neat. So I don't know. I think I think I tend to like either those or just kind of clunkers like an old 90s station wagon or a van. An ominous looking windowless van or just some beat up pickup that you can ramp things into. So I sort of like both ends of the spectrum there. But yeah, it's the environment's pretty much all the way for me in driving games. So, okay, someone has a question about the crew. Okay, I mentioned how the Grand Canyon was one of the things that made me think about how big something can be. He's asking what else was there. The Grand Canyon might have been, maybe I just worded that a little sloppily. The Grand Canyon is probably the far and away. I don't think I've ever had an experience quite like that anywhere else because it kind of messes with your field of vision that is just so huge. I don't know. I mean, I guess a similar thing that would be if you're being up in a plane and looking down at the earth, that's pretty impressive. I mean, you can get to any sort of like lookout point that's way high up, but Grand Canyon was something else. It created an effect that just, because it was on all sides, from the lookout point I was at, that because it's not only just most gigantic, geological landmarks you've ever seen. It's like on the left side, the right side, and it just goes on just massive amounts. So it's something that is not easily captured, I'd say, and it's one of those few things where you have actually seeing it is quite different than seeing a video of it or something like that. Let's see. I got distracted by the chat. Okay, let's second part of that. Oh, okay. Is that like at the beginning of the video? I have a transition from Test Drive 3 to the crew, and he's asking if that's a well-known landmark or anything. No, that was that was an awesome coincidence. I was hoping to find something similar in Test Drive 3, like a lighthouse and like a shoreline, but I wasn't able to match it up so well in the crew. And then as I was cruising around, I found, yeah, that's right. Who is it? Brian Shooter recorded the Test Drive 3 sample of that for me because I was real busy. And I was looking at his footage and I was thinking, okay, well, yeah, I remember a covered bridge. I remember some covered bridges in the crew. So I was trying to see if I could find one on a hill. And then I found one with a chapel right next to it in the same location. It's like, oh, this is too perfect. So I thought, yeah, the point of that was to just sort of sum up like, yeah, you know what, 20 or 20 or 25 years later in technology jump here, like to see the transition. Man, I mean, it wasn't completely perfect, but we have the covered bridge and the chapel right there as driving. I mean, to me, that was the draw of it, just being able to kind of explore the countryside. Okay, how does it feel to live in a European country without knowing its language? Do you manage to get by just by speaking English, or have you found yourself in situations where you wish you could communicate better? Yeah, definitely I could. In fact, I rarely use English. I tend to use, I tend to not, I tend to assume no one's going to speak English. And sometimes it's true, sometimes it isn't. Because I figure, you know what, even if they do, it's like I'm the foreigner. I don't want to be the guy who's, just creating a hard time for people because I don't speak the language. So I've tried to learn, are you planning to learn Polish more in depth in the future? Yes, whenever I have time, whenever that is. I'm trying to focus on nouns or verbs that work because I'd rather talk like a caveman in Polish than, learn like a few phrases because then I can communicate ideas much better. And I think people are much more willing to work with you if you get a few key words down. So, the chat's moved on to ninjas. And so yeah, as for how it feels, well, it's a challenge. It's yeah, it just varies. I guess I've gotten sort of used to it by now, but I need to learn a lot more still. What were the first games you remember playing? Those were probably, I'm assuming video games, not board games, but those are probably Commodore 64 games. I don't think it's the first, but it's definitely one of them. I remember playing, River Raid. There was a Superman game for the Commodore 64. I think there might have been more than one, though. I remember playing, again, there's another one, I think there was more than one, a Transformers game for Commodore 64. I played a bad Back to the Future 2 game for Commodore 64. So yeah, now I'm remembering some movie ones. This one might get a Game Dungeon, maybe. Doctor Who and the Mines of Terror. I played that one. I played Super Mario Brothers at a friend's house. That was probably my first console game that I played. I was terrible at it initially. I guess I was just so not used to it, but I was struggling to get past the first Goomba, I remember. Yeah, I guess those are some of the earliest ones I remember. There's another one, Time Tunnel was for Commodore 64. And there's still some blurry. Man, there was one I got for Christmas. I'm still trying to figure out what it was. I can't figure it out. It was some game, I think, where you're either managing aliens or you're visiting an alien world and going down underground. I don't think it was like a straight shooter thing. I think it was just a little more like kind of adventure kind of thing. I thought Alien was in the title, but I looked at like every Commodore 64 game title I could find that has the word alien in it, and none of them look like it. So I don't know. My memories are really blurry on it. So I was mentioning Star Control. No, it wasn't that sophisticated. I remember it's too blurry. I was gonna say I remember like sort of. I could be remembering it incorrectly, but I think I remember there being an actual sky. In other words, like white or, bright yellow or blue for the background, which can kind of stand out for Commodore 64 games since so many have the background as black. Oh yeah, there's some Donald Duck game I played on Commodore 64 that was, at one point you're moving a bunch of watermelons around. I remember liking that as a kid. Somebody's saying mule. Maybe. I feel like it had alien in the title though, or maybe some. I don't know. It's too vague. I don't have enough details. Basically, I could recognize it if I saw a couple screenshots. That's it. That's as far as I would give my memory on it. So I was mentioning Hocus Pocus. I think that was for DOS much later. Actually, wasn't Star Control like that? But okay, let's see. Do you like it when a dev team puts obscure mechanics into a game that can change outcomes of certain scenarios? Okay, saying in Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain, if you're just coming off of the enemy attacking you and you go and going into the enemy searching for your phase, you can hide in porta-johns. Okay. My brain's getting lost in the sentence. Occasionally, a baddie will go up and check the John, but if you have collected a cassette tape of a man with bad stomach pains and play it on speaker, the baddie will just back off. Oh, okay. I guess it's not that. It's not that big a deal for me. I guess it's the sort of thing where if it obviously makes sense and you want to do it, then then that changes things. The example I'm thinking of, this one's sort of reflected on your play style. In Silent Hill 2, the way you play it influences the ending of the game. It's funny because I didn't know that, and then later I found out the way the way I had played it. It's almost as if I was trying to get that ending because I was keeping my character like on the brink of death because I was used to Resident Evil where it pays off to keep them kind of low on health because you might get an item that gives you full health, so you want to restore all of it. And then like I was looking at a knife I shouldn't have been. I looked at a knife too many times trying to figure out a puzzle, and there were some other things. So it's like I did almost everything I should have to get that ending without even realizing it. And actually, I talked to my, they're both on Civil Protection, Craig and Fred. They each got different endings. I think Craig got one where it's it was the better ending. Jeez, I'm blurry now. And then Fred got one where if you protect one of the characters, Maria, a whole bunch, you get a different ending. So it's like all three of us got different endings. So I forget what the one, because there's three basic endings you can get the first time through. But yeah, I like it when like it's reflected by your play style rather than just like little things. I mean, if it's an Easter egg, I guess it's okay. But I guess those don't do that much for me. I don't know. I guess I'm at the point where I've played a lot of different games, so I'm still very interested in lots of different games, but some things aren't as interesting to me as maybe as they once were. So yeah, and just to clarify, it's not me getting jaded on games. It's just specific elements, And the other part of the problem is there's so many games now that it's just you can afford to be picky, Okay. In relation to the Cult Simulator video, would you be open to the idea of purchasing a large plot of land and live in a commune with your fans once the oil crisis hits? This is one of those where it's like, for my answer is sort of half serious, half not. Like, if there's like an actual collapse of like society and civilization, that's probably going to happen in slow motion, and it's looking like, I mean, it seems like science fiction to think about, but we're setting ourselves up for a lot of problems. That's the best way to put it. I'm definitely willing to think outside the box for wanting to adapt and survive, and look, if things got pretty bad, I could in all seriousness consider doing some sort of like SOS to fans and seeing where I could end up to be okay. But prior to that, barring that scenario, I certainly wouldn't want to run like some equivalent of a cult, because I mean, I'm too bit. You know, the point I try to make in the cult simulator is, you know, that's a full-time job if you're going to run a cult. You know, I don't have time to be making videos if I was doing something like that. So somebody else would need to spearhead, you know, the property and the organization, that sort of thing. And again, it's the sort of thing where you're going to hear this from me and you might think I'm just like mentally unbalanced. Hey, maybe I am, but I can say if I hadn't been making the videos, you know, or hadn't any traction with that, and I hadn't met my wife, there's a really high possibility I could have ended up at one of those intentional community things. Not a cult, but just something where there's an alternative to a 9-to-5 job that you just hate, you know, because options are limited once you get outside of that. And that's the sort of stuff that can really kind of just get to me over the long term. Because, I mean, look, I can tough out any number of things, like over a short time span, like a few months, but in the long term, it's important to end up with a job you don't hate. And I found that was the case with most jobs. Whereas if it's work that's sort of for yourself and other people around you in a community, that's something it's easier, even if the work still isn't much fun, that's something that's like easier to get around for me mentally. So I guess that's the sort of thing. Yeah, I guess that's the best answer I have. So it's not on my plans, but it's not so out there I wouldn't rule it out. Again, with society kind of plodding along the way it is, I wouldn't see a compelling reason to, but I feel like where we are could change quite dramatically, especially if you look at over the span of a few decades. I mean, how fast things happen and how severe and how well we adapt. Those are all big unknown variables, but there's changes ahead. There's changes ahead. Yeah. Did you ever have a crush on a fictional character growing up? I guess not really. I mean, you can think that a fictional character looks cute or hot or whatever, but it's like, it's fictional, so it's not really gonna go anywhere with that. I think pretty much at like any age that always clicked with me, that like, okay, well, you know, that's nice, but this isn't real. Like there's no good comes from trying to take your mind further with that. So I think when I was young, I thought like one of the girls in Magic School Bus cartoons looked cute. I mean, this must have been in elementary school. I don't remember the name or something. That's all I can really think of offhand. So yeah, so I might have been like in second or third grade or something like that. But again, it wasn't. I wouldn't call it a crush. It's that would be more. So yeah, moral of the story is don't get crushes on fictional characters. You got that's not gonna go anywhere good. I don't think, guys. Let's see. Okay, I mentioned Grim Fandango. A lot of people love that game, but my personal opinion it was closer to okay. Okay, and he gets the impression I'm a big fan of many of the earlier LucasArts games. So what was it about this one that didn't connect with you, as well as Monkey Island, Sam & Max, and so on? The writing, puzzles, tank controls. I'd say it's probably the theme more than anything else. Again, I can be picky because let's say the Secret of Monkey Island. I think that's a pretty great game. I still like that one. See, both the Secret of Monkey Island and Grim Fandango have a lot of atmosphere, but it's a different kind of atmosphere. Like with Secret of Monkey Island, like the first half or a third of the game is all at night, It's lots of forest, this real moody music, and it's this pirate adventure with mysterious stuff ahead, where we have ghost pirates and they sort of build up this mysticism about Monkey Island, and it has like lots of bright color palettes, or well, not bright necessarily, but vivid colors, and I don't know, it clicked together for this kind of atmospheric, it's like fun, very mysterious atmosphere, and kind of a little bit otherworldly that I liked about it. And with Grim Fandango, I guess you could say most of that's true, but it's much more bright. I remember the colors not being as vivid. They're going for more of the like the Mexican Day of the Dead theme to it. I guess they're definitely going for a film noir style, which I'm not the biggest fan of. It's not that it's bad, it's just not really what I'm into. And like there's a mystery in Grim Fandango for sure, but I feel like the mystery, like the actual context of it, is more low key than what you have in Monkey Island, because in Monkey Island you don't know what to expect. These are uncharted lands. There's supernatural things happening here, whereas with Grim Fandango, they have all that weird stuff, but it's all kind of normalized. You're like within the Bureau of the Afterlife, and so it's not meant to be like this big, like, oh, what's out there event. It's more, the mystery is more like, oh, what were the motivations for this character, or like what's the paper trail that led to them taking these acts. It's more like your kind of classic, like, Private Eye kind of mystery. And again, and then there's the setting too. Secret of Monkey Island, we have like the mysterious forest, and then you have like the open sea, and then like thick jungle, and again these vivid colors that kind of give it a little bit more dreamy state to it. I remember, Grim Fandango, they're doing that sort of, what is it called, Art Deco style. The colors aren't quite as splashy. Like, okay, I guess what it is I'm in the land of the dead, and it's kind of mundane. It's kind of like a regular city. I mean, you have a couple weird stuff on the outskirts. It's not like Beetlejuice or something like that, where it's just way out there. So I think that's what it is. I think it's just the theme and the setting of it that can kind of grab me. It's the things, I mean, like with the writing, they both have good writing puzzles, and the tank controls aren't a big deal for me. I mean, I don't really like them, but that's not going to turn me away from the game. So, let's see. Yeah, somebody's saying the 30s Art Deco. So it's just the style, I guess. The style and the storyline, while still good, the mystery isn't as great. The mystery is just what's been happening to what's been happening to the Afterlife department, versus there could be anything on that island. Where are these ghost pirates coming from? What's out in the woods? It's a different kind of mystery that I like more. Okay, let's see. Have you ever seen the video titled "The True Genius of Freeman's Mind"? Yes. Well, no. Several people told me about it, linked me to it. I basically couldn't watch. It was just sort of uncomfortable for me to watch. It's not that it's bad. It's probably fine. It's just I don't really want to watch a video that's kind of praising me or something like that. I don't know. It's just it just wasn't. It's not how my brain's wired. So maybe they made good points. I'm not even completely sure what it says. It's meant as no disrespect towards the person who made it. It's just, ironically, I'm not the right. I'm specifically not the right person to watch that. So, will you ever set up a PO box? Yeah, maybe eventually. Though that probably be an additional cost each year. Plus, there is still limited space where we are. We're still trying to make space for everything. But I am good. I am good to record though. Even though I have curtain blankets in the back. There's still some weird acoustics going on in the room, but with blankets everywhere, it does dampen the sound considerably. The reverberation. I've always had a little bit of a tricky time pronouncing R's, which is ironic considering my name. But when do you think gaming changes from a hobby to an unhealthy addiction? I'd say when it's interfering with other aspects of your life that are like are important. Uh, I remember I've seen real world examples of this when I was working at doing PC repair, like my late teens. Around that time, the EverQuest had come out, and that was kind of taking over multiple technicians and the acting manager. It was a real small shop. It was a computer shop that I was one of the repair technicians. And they were all talking about that. And I saw the manager just decide to close the shop early so they could go to the Minotaur caves. And then the manager, he had been working there for I think like 2 years or something. He called in sick, and he pretty much had never had a sick day. And somebody else who is actually a roommate with him, who was one of the technicians, he came in, tired, and he was telling him how great EverQuest was, and he ended up, and he said, "Oh, Isaac, yeah, I was planning on having fun, but come 3 or 4 in the morning, I gotta get some sleep, So he went to bed. When he went to bed, Isaac, the manager, was playing. When he got up, Isaac, the manager's still playing. Isaac called in sick, so he came in, and so I thought that was all just kind of hilarious. So he was the manager, but he wasn't the boss, or the owner. But I mean, he was there kind of half the time. And it's funny when the owner was there. I was working on a system, and another technician was telling me about EverQuest. And then the owner heard that. He's like, no, shut up. I am not losing another employee to EverCrack, And he was just trying to dissuade Jay. Don't play that, Ross. Just ignore what they're saying. You don't want to play EverQuest. I also saw another friend of mine. I saw another friend of mine was basically just spending all of his life on World of Warcraft. And another person, girl I knew, basically her, I don't know if it was her fiance, but it was definitely her boyfriend who she'd been with for a few years. Basically just completely shut down, and like nothing else mattered except World of Warcraft. And I think they ended up splitting up after a few years, basically because of World of Warcraft, him spending all his time on it. I don't know. But another thing, I mean, I don't want to hear if it's like tragic, but if you have good stories of these, I find these just amusing. I don't know. I find them kind of hilarious. So you're welcome to send me stories of this. Well, in fact, I'll recommend a video. I think it might be I finally went through and cleaned up YouTube channel a little bit, and I put likes next to videos I feel like are really great and worth watching. I feel like they're funny. One of them, it's on the channel Stan Birdman. I think it's for Sonic 3D Blast. It says like no sleep till Brooklyn. He has a fantastic story in that about him playing Sonic 3D Blast and getting addicted. So yeah, you're welcome to send me any gaming. Again, if it's tragic, don't send me those. But anything less, send me gaming addiction stories. I think they're hilarious. Yeah, another one was when I was in college. Actually, somebody asked me about this in an interview. It might even be in an article now. I think it was for Dig. They were doing for Half-Life. They're doing some Half-Life anniversary thing that they got a few statements from me about. But when I was in college, I was talking to somebody else, and their roommate apparently was just playing Counter-Strike all the time, just all the time. And what surprised him was he's saying, it's like, oh, well, it's exam. It's like you coming to it? It's like, no, I'm good. And it's just like, Oh, okay. So he decided to skip the exam to play Counter Strike. Not even like a tournament or something. Just let's just skip the exam. Like what? Yeah, why not? Like, I don't think I'd be even able to enjoy the game if I was doing that. Because I'd be thinking like, what's gonna happen after this? So yeah, somebody's saying they're playing World of Warcraft as they're watching this. So uh, yeah, I guess that's the difference. Though part of me welcomes that in a sense because it's rare that I come across games that are so good, like I just cannot put them down, or I'm finding excuses to just keep playing them. So yeah, I guess that's the crossover. Like if you're calling in sick for work, school, yeah, like your relationships like maybe on the rocks if you're playing it. I think that's the cutoff point. But but hey, or those insane stories you hear. Yeah, maybe don't send me these, but the ones where people will just die in internet cafes, usually in like Korea or Japan or something, or China. Like, uh, yeah, I mean, I don't want to hear about that stuff because that stuff is pretty awful. But like anything less, I find them hilarious. So yeah, or like, it could be really bad if like you had a kid or something, we're neglecting them. That's not. I don't want to hear stuff like that. But if you're just ruining your own life, that's those are fun to hear. or I don't know. I just find them hilarious. So I guess I have the mechanism to like these warning bells to go off past a certain point for me. So yeah, somebody's saying they miss wanting to play something so badly. Well, hey, who knows? Maybe Cyberpunk for me it will be Cyberpunk 2077. Maybe it'll be another one of those. So I'm at. I'm sure I'm going to enjoy the game. It's just the question of how much. So let's see. Oh, question ties right into that. Ross, what does a game need to have in order to suck you in for 100 hours, 100 plus hours without getting boring? Well, I'd say a few things. One, I have to enjoy the theme, uh, and competent enough gameplay. It doesn't have to be the best gameplay ever, but I'd say it's rare. Maybe for some multiplayer games, but it's kind of rare when gameplay alone is what's sucking me in for that length of time. If it has just like like a story that I'm really enjoying and kind of getting into, and it's kind of paced well, that can do it. But that also lasts that long. Uh, let's see. Yeah, just sometimes just loads of content for a game I'm enjoying. That's usually that'd probably be the easiest answer. It's usually kind of rare to hit those outside of those like massive RPGs sometimes, or but again, even then it has to. It's tricky because I tend to get. I mean, it's going to be blasphemy for some people, but I tend to get kind of bored of like some of the Elder Scrolls or the newer Fallout games, just because they seem like a lot of fun right at the beginning, and then they start feeling a little hollow to me. Whereas, like the Gothic games could sort of strung me along the whole way. Well, I haven't played the newer ones though. Played 1 through 3. Although 3 and then ended up getting me like a little bit bored. Let's see. Path of Exile, I probably put in over that. But that has like a whole progression chain that you go through. Yeah, I don't know. I think a long, encompassing storyline that's good too, or that intrigues me, because you can have a long storyline, but if the story itself is boring, that's good. Like one good way to do that. See, that's one of the appeals, like I mentioned in like Dungeon Siege. I'm sure plenty of other games. These games where you're kind of moving from one destination to the next, those are great for that sort of thing because okay, you finished up like this, like this is sort of a classic setup for RPGs, but it's a good one. You have your main overarching story. Like this is the one that's gonna take a long time to do. But then you have these smaller stories. They're not necessarily side quest kind of things that are, because normally when I think of side quests, you think of things that are just completely irrelevant to what you're doing and they're just kind of something you can stray off. These are ones that are more like they're smaller scale that lead to a chunk that leads to the bigger story. So I like if it's structured like that. So let's say you start out in like small town one, and you have like your one. There's the main story that's going on that you're just getting like hints of at the beginning, but then there'll be a few like local conflicts that you got to deal with. And again, don't make it seem completely optional. Make this look like no, you got to deal with this if you want to get through the game. And then that will lead to uncovering a little bit more of the main story. But then after a while, you finish up in that area, and then you go to the next, travel to the next area. Like, okay, that one was like out in the forest. Next one's up in the mountains, or kind of, or a different forest that looks more exotic, and especially if you can scale that so that like the farther you go, the more kind of interesting the places look. That can string you along a real long time, or at least for me. So that sort of structure to games. I think it's an older style, but it's a good one. Again, I'm sure there's a bunch of RPGs I haven't played that do use this style, but again, Dungeon Siege kind of had that flow to it. So actually, 1 and 2 both did that. I kind of prefer like that little bit of structure rather than just like wander everywhere, do whatever you want. So I kind of like light sort of guidance as to kind of where I should be flowing to next. Okay, people are saying Witcher 1 and 2 use this format. And somebody's mentioning Dragon Age. I guess Dragon Age sort of did. Yeah, I guess you have more choice where you go next in Dragon Age. Okay, let's see. Do you ever go berry or mushroom picking? Or do you plan to now that you live near the forest? Not really. When I was a kid, we had a wild black raspberry bush that we'd sometimes harvest, but that was about it. I certainly see people mushroom picking. The thing is, I don't cook enough to really justify getting mushrooms. So I figure, and I have to study which are the right ones. My uncle is all about that. He became a mushroom fanatic at some point. I'm not sure what brought it on, but I'd say he knows all there is to know about mushrooms and fungus. In fact, I remember once I was on a hike with him, and I pointed out one to him that was big, and said, "Oh yeah, there's one." He said, "Oh," and he takes out his pocket knife. "That's a meal," and then he cuts it off. Let's see. I definitely see people harvesting mushrooms, especially in the fall here in the forest. But it's nothing about. I don't know if I've seen much in the way of berries here. I saw them more when I was in Virginia. I mean, if I see some, I might take a couple, but it'd have to be you see them and you're there at the right time when they're in season. So it was a rare thing. Let's see. What is your favorite James Bond movie, and which is your favorite Austin Powers movie? Yeah, I think this kind of, well, it got several votes. Just to do Austin Powers, because that's easier. I guess the first, it would probably be the first or the second one. There was, Austin Powers is a mix of those where like, I think a lot of movies stupid, but then it has like great scenes that I love. So, I mean, I really like Yeah, I don't think I'd even like the movie if it wasn't for Dr. Evil. Although they're good scenes. Like I remember in the first one when he's saying when Austin Powers is trying to figure out a time paradox, and then he's like, "Oh no, I've gone cross-eyed," and then the I love. I thought this was a great use of breaking the fourth wall, and then his handler. I forget his name. He was the guy in Logan's Run. He says, you know, I suggest you. It's like I suggest Austin. I suggest you don't think too heavily about the time travel and just try to enjoy yourself. And he looks right at the camera, and that goes for you too. You know. And then, uh, I don't know. After I guess either the first or the second. Whichever one, Doctor Evil had better moments, and it's kind of blurry. And our favorite James Bond movie, I don't know. I mean, it's like I like them both. I like, yeah, them both. Yeah, all two of them. I like I like the some of the James Bond movies in different ways. I mean, I like Goldfinger a lot. I thought the new Casino Royale was good, and I like You Only Live Twice. Although, you know, it's a toss up between, as far as my favorite Bond though, I think it might be Pierce Brosnan. I thought he really kind of nailed it because he is that mix of kind of the smooth operator versus being dangerous. Though Sean Connery, of course, is really great too. So, I mean, Daniel Craig, he does a great job, but he's not as playful as the other Bonds. I mean, he doesn't have that kind of, you know, sort of. Yeah, this the playfulness snuck in there. Whereas Pierce Brosnan, he played that aspect off perfectly. So, but I don't know. The movies he's in aren't necessarily my favorite either. So, somebody says Casino Royale is the only James Bond movie which is not dumb. Yeah, that could be. Like it's. Yeah, that there is a certain level of hokiness in plenty of the others. Yeah, geez, that might be the case. Because I guess I guess Quantum of Solace didn't have the hokiness, but it wasn't. I don't know, it wasn't that great. I don't think. Okay, yeah, getting yeah. So sorry, I don't have any one favorite, but I mean, part of me wants to say GoldenEye, but I don't know. It's maybe part of the problem was I maybe heard the soundtrack to that too many times. So GoldenEye was it was fun. But is Magda actually a cat? No, but she certainly has a cat affinity. I've hey, you know, I mentioned in the Kyrandy episode, some people have like a calling for certain types of occupations. She has a calling to like take care of pets, I think. So unfortunately, she has her anxieties that she's still working on, but I think she'd be a complete natural for something like a pet sitter. That would be, I think that would be her, it'd be a real calling for her as a profession. So, Ross, any thoughts about Epic Games' new digital store? Well, I don't know much about it. Oh yeah, Subnautica is free to own right now, even if you're watching this on YouTube. It's until Christmas, I think. That's great because that's one of the games I wanted to play. Um, but yeah, on the store, the big thing, all other things being equal, the what I think the big thing it has that I would definitely endorse is they're taking a much lower cut percentage wise from developers. Like with Steam, it's 70-30. You know, the developer gets 70%, Steam gets 30, and then with Steam gets 30, developer gets 70, and with Epic, I think it's like 88 and 12%. So that's a lot, but that seems a lot more reasonable. I mean, it's so I hope that aspect of it becomes more of a standard for developers. Oh, and I've heard. Oh, someone told me about Subnautica. It's a game that's good to go in blind on. Like you shouldn't spoil it for you. Like all I know is like you've crash landed and it's like you're in an alien ocean and seeing alien fish and stuff. And The person who told me that says good. If that's all you know, good. So it's one you may not want to look up too much on. Again, I plan on playing it. I know someone who's raving about it. Plus, I like the theme of it. So let's see. But yeah, with Epic, I will say they're doing a lot of things right. With not knowing anything about Fortnite, so like with the engine, like even before it went free, they had a completely reasonable policy for licensing the engine. Like it used to be, you could like pay $20 a month to have access to the Unreal Engine, but if you stop paying, you got to keep the existing version of the engine, and it's only if you wanted updates that you paid more. That's a great business model. It's like, buy it, and then you get to keep that version. But if you want updates, sure, give them some more money. That to me, that's a perfect compromise. I mean, yeah, I'm sure it doesn't make as much money as like shaking people down each month, and I mean, the biggest criticism I've heard about them, which is probably true, is for the Unreal Engine, they're kind of obsessed with like having more new features and things, and they don't bother to patch up the holes as well as they should. Whereas, like I think with Unity Engine, they'll have like long-term service branches, ones that, okay, this is the one that's pretty stable. So if you don't want to monkey with these new features and just want the engines to hopefully not crash, this is the one you should do. And I think Epic said that, like, no, they're not going to do that. So I'd like it if they would consider that, maybe like once a year or even once every 2 years, have one that like, all right, let's go and patch all the bugs we can, try and make it stable. But, it's, they've made an incredible amount of money off of Fortnite. And hey, even though they canceled that, they did Dead Game News on it. What was the name of it? Paragon? Even though they canceled that, they gave full refunds to everyone who put any money into it. Well, I don't like seeing games being killed. If that's how they're doing it, I can't really argue that they're being unethical about it. So, that's good. And then they released all the art assets for free for that anyway. So, Unreal Engine is going to be for the movie, so I'm going to be kind of neck deep in using the Epic launcher anyway. So I'd say it's promising. Anything can happen in the future, but yeah, again, I hope that kind of split ratio, around 88 to 12 or, 9 to 10, 9 to 1, that's much nicer for developers, I think. So I hope that part catches on. All right. Ross, if for whatever reason your living situation changed and you and your wife can no longer live in Poland, where do you think to move? Somewhere in America or Europe? Geez, I don't even know. I'd have to figure it out, because the big thing, because cost of living, I don't think would make a lot of sense for me moving back to USA. I'm not sure how it would work. I could probably find, with food and insurance and everything. I don't know. I have to see what she was open to considering. I think I had one person invite me before to Czech Republic, and while it's a different language, there's a lot of overlap between Czech and Polish. So under that scenario, maybe that's something we could consider. But I think what would happen, that's one of those things. I'll cross that bridge when I come to it. I think what would happen before then, if it was like an economic thing, we'd probably move like farther out in the country in Poland where the price can drop, which, I wouldn't even mind doing now necessarily, but that'd be a little more stress for her, but she could adapt to that better, I think. So, okay. Because again, I can't just think of where I want to live. I have to kind of think of both of us. And She's gonna have more hang-ups about where she lives, I think, than I would. Do you know of any communities that don't want to touch anything that greedy gaming industry puts out and only play games that were made with sole intention of providing fun to players? Would it make sense for such a community to exist? Well, I mean, I imagine it's a sliding scale. I mean, I guess look for any place that has freeware games, because, you know, freeware is going to meet the definition of that. But beyond that, I guess you'd want to start with, I haven't been there in forever, so maybe it's changed, but something like IndieDB, or I think that was the name of it, or ModDB, something where they're focused on indie games and smaller developers, so that they're just simply not big enough to pull off this greedy stuff. Whether that's their intention or not, they can't get away with it. So, yeah, I guess just look for smaller games. However, I am going to have something cool in the future that sort of relates to this. So, I guess that's all I'll say on it for now. But yeah, I guess look up indie games in general. And maybe they have been kind of corrupt. Yeah, actually, that was some of the stuff that came out in Gamergate that, like, there was like people on the board for Indie Game Awards that also backed the same game. So there's could be a more clear conflict of interest. So there probably is some of that there, but I imagine it's less, or else it's more petty. So, or the greed isn't about, like, or the greed isn't directed specifically at the player necessarily. So I don't know. But yeah, it's that stuff's probably gotten much more political now. Let's see. Ross, would you share some of your channel statistics with us? You always say most of your viewers are American. What percentage is that? How about other countries and age distribution? I have no problem sharing that. However, I kind of don't want to spend the time to reread my YouTube contract to see if that's okay. So maybe if somebody wants to reread the standard YouTube creator agreement and see if that's allowed. Because I know sharing some statistics aren't. I mean, maybe I shouldn't have even said some of the stuff I have in the past. I don't know. So I don't want to get in trouble over it. But other than that, no, I have no problem sharing numbers. So if I'm allowed to, sure. It doesn't bother me. But yeah, it is mostly American. I think the UK was number 2 for viewers. I think it's something like 95% male. Oh, well. I mean, I can certainly see that for some of my videos. Others, I feel like, are kind of more general audience. But yeah, I don't even remember what the age demographic is. I think it's mostly my age and younger. So. Russ, what is your opinion on rumors surrounding Half-Life VR? And also, what are your thoughts on Counter-Strike Go Battle Royale free to play? Oh yeah, I think like the whole thing didn't the whole thing go free to play, or is it just Battle Royale mode? I mean, hey, free to play, I have zero problem with free to play as long as there's a way to play it after the game shuts down, especially if you put money into it. Coming from Valve, though, I mean, geez, Counter-Strike Go, it's got to be backed up 6 ways to Sunday, even if unofficially. So I think that's probably pretty safe. So sure, I mean, I think I'm kind of maybe not so much in the for me, Counter-Strike's probably greatest strength is also its greatest weakness for me personally, and that's the once you die, you gotta wait. That makes the game better because it makes it more tense and you're really invested. But at the same time, it sucks just sitting around doing nothing. So, and I think that's what kind of drove me out of it. Plus, there are people so good at that game, I can't even imagine how it would be. Because some games, if someone's just godlike at it, you can still have fun just doing other stuff or just being part of sort of the wave of the objective. Others, it's like, no, it's just you're dead. And I think Counter-Strike in general is more like that. Half-Life VR I hadn't heard of since the original. Did they modify that? Although I will say though, something that's highly encouraging to me is I'm sort of getting more of my sea legs towards VR. I found I was able to do kind of push things. Again, I've only done tests because I don't want to really get into it until I get a better VR headset. But doing some tests in VorpX, I was finding I was able to handle more movement in games. And I could be tripping, but I think they had an option in VR where you can, in VorpX where you can hold down a button and it'll restrict your peripheral vision as long as you're having the button down. So that makes so if you like wanted to turn quick, maybe you could like map that to the same key to the key that you hit. That can make games a lot more accessible. So I tested a few more games, man. I'm getting highly encouraged by VorpX. Look, it's been, and I'm on the edge for, I guess this isn't about Half-Life VR so much, it's just VR in general. Look, I'm probably anticipating getting a new VR headset more than any other upgrade I've had maybe in the past decade or so, or maybe longer. Like I'm genuinely excited, almost like kind of a little impatient about it. I'm still trying to decide on the best one. Oh, and hey, I'm gonna call out PC Gamer because they had someone who's ignorant. They wrote best VR headset, and they didn't even mention like the. Okay, to be fair, it's only out for backers. They didn't even mention the Pimax ones or the Samsung Odyssey Plus. It's like I can understand if they made the argument, no, these are better. Okay, that's your opinion because X, Y, and Z. But if they don't even mention them, that's just ignorance. So in that article, PC Gamer doesn't know what they're talking about. Right now, I might be warming up to the Samsung. I thought the Pimax 5K might have been the best one. But, I mean, best one where you're not spending literally thousands of dollars, because I'm sure you can get better, but for mortals. Best one's for mortals. But the Samsung Odyssey Plus, it sounds like it's not comfortable, though you can mod it, but it has like the best picture. And I read there was some tweak where you can make it even sharper. I mean, it has a better picture quality on the Vive Pro, so and the cost is much more economical. I might have jumped ship already on it, except it's, well, for two reasons. One, it's Windows 10 only, so I've got to upgrade first, and that's going to be a can of worms for when I get to that. And two, they're not selling it in Europe, so I would have to get it, maybe kind of buy it, then maybe my parents could ship it to me and I pay for shipping. And then I'll probably have to pay customs tax too. But man, I'm getting like more and more excited about being able to go and just see all these game worlds, because I'm sure there's a handful of great VR games, and then there's probably a million mini games, which I don't care that much about. But there are literally hundreds of great, AAA games that have been made in the past that you can convert to. A lot of them you can convert to VR and get a pretty good experience. Like I was doing tests in Sin Episodes was one, and I had a bit of a bug, but it was pretty immersive. I did tests with Mass Effect 3 and very excellent 3D in there, although everything looked a little too small in Mass Effect 3, like it was a doll, but it's still cool. I'm still gonna test some more now, but I want more resolutions. So right now I'm only doing testing pretty much, just to see if can I get this game work. Because man, I wanna go and get some driving games, especially working, like some. You know what? It's like some of it is nostalgia, but when I use the Revelator 3D glasses, I want to go back and play some of the same games as I was playing then, because some of the experiences were just jaw-dropping. Plus, those are going to be less demanding, because with these high resolutions, I think the Samsung VR is like 2880 by 1600 or something. You're gonna, if you want to hit 90 frames a second or something like that, you don't want to have like cutting edge graphics, really. But okay, I'll get off this for everybody who gets tired of hearing about VR. But it's one of the most, it's maybe the biggest thing I'm looking forward to in gaming right now, just being able to visit these worlds. because it's, hey, I made the video. It's like me wanting to get back to the Nexus. That's how it feels. So, okay, so yeah, I got a little off topic. Ross, the Doom franchise is now 25 years old. Do you have any thoughts about the matter? What are your favorite aspects of Doom? Well, this is I still need to play the new one. Yeah, Doom, because they couldn't come up with a new name like Doom Respawned or something. Yeah, I mean, I like the theme, you know, mixing space base, you know, Mars base or Phobos with demons from hell. That sort of theme isn't going to get old with me. Yeah, like with Doom 1 and 2, again, there's a die-hard Doom community. Again, those were always a little too maze-like for me, though I admit Brutal Doom really kind of spices that up, that mod in particular. Though there's some other mods. One of them, it's like you almost can't believe it was, I forgot the name of it. I have it written down somewhere. There's one like total conversion that you almost can't believe it was made in the Doom 2 engine. It looks too good. But let's see. I guess Doom 3 is probably going to be the one that gets kind of forgotten a bit, though. I mean, I liked it for what it was. I wouldn't say it's my favorite game ever, but you know, it went for more of a horror aspect and less of the. They try to make it scarier and less just all-out carnage all the time. Somebody's saying total chaos for the mod. Maybe that's it. Here, let's see if I can get a screenshot quick. Total chaos screenshots. Yeah, that was it. Total chaos. Yeah. Look at screenshots of that, and then get told that's in the Doom 2 engine. So yeah, my favorite aspects. I guess the theme are my favorite aspects, and I do like how it kind of goes over the top a little bit. So. I guess the least favorite aspects would be the movie. So, I mean, the movie's frustrating because I feel like that's the sort of movie Hollywood could have done right. Just copy aliens, make it demons, make it scary. You know, that's all you had to do. And they dropped the ball, I think. That's the question. What would you say has been the most satisfying thing you managed to pull off in any of your videos? A clever piece of writing, animation accomplishment, a bastard level you've beaten, a moment you've caught on a camera. Well, okay, if I just had to pick one, because like there were a lot of, sadly, there were a lot of victories that shouldn't have had to been elaborate victories. Oh, hello? Yeah, go ahead. Okay, my wife is waving as she's hiding behind the door there. So only I can see the wave. But let's see, lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, there were sadly many accomplishments I had to have for civil protection and stranger in need, just for basic things at technical level, that it's kind of, that it's like I'm proud of them, but I'm also ashamed I even had to do that in the first place for the technical level. What for writing? I'm sure there's plenty, but again, it kind of blurs together. I'll say one though that I think is worth mentioning. For BitBop 2 episode, getting a working copy of BitBop 3 and possibly preserving a game that no one was ever going to see again. So I think that I'm glad I was able to get that done. And oh hey, I'm glad I got you guys the Rama soundtrack. I'm glad I got the Rama soundtrack. That's another one where that is just a hidden jewel of music. I mean, that one. And I have another surprise like that coming at some point in a future game dungeon. I mean, I guess I guess I could be, I guess I'm being a little bit of a jerk sitting on it while I'm waiting for the video, but I'll try to get that done next year, hopefully. So, uh, yeah, that one's yeah, because Bip Bop 3, I'm glad I salvaged it. It's interesting, but it's not like the greatest game ever. Whereas Rama, no, that's one of my all-time favorite soundtracks also. So it's kind of rare that you come across something that's very rare and very good. Because usually it's very rare and there's good reasons it's very rare. So, or it's just okay. But it's rare that it's like you hit that overlap. But I've said this before. I feel like my best work's still ahead of me. I've got so much I have to do. Oh, excuse me. Let's see. Okay, they're asking Mike and Dave. Is there any chance to get Mike and Dave to finish the depressing rendition of I've been working on the railroad? No, in fact, I think I ripped that off from a Daria episode, but I actually had another one planned for Little Bunny Fufu. So maybe I'll get to that one eventually. Let's see. Do you have a favorite Christmas game? Not necessarily a Christmas themed game, but a game you like to play during the holiday season. Well, not any one favorite, but that's when I like to play kind of winter games. So, I mean, I guess my favorite at the moment would probably be Polaris Snowcross, which, boy, I hope I can get that. I wonder if I'm ever going to be able to get that game running native. Man, maybe I can get that running. Oh, I had an idea because, you know, for this VR stuff I'm doing to see in full 3D, you have to have the game running natively. You can't do it through a virtual machine. I was thinking I might be able to do. Wine exist on Windows also, so maybe I could get it. Boy, that'll be interesting to try and get that running in VR. It might be possible. Yeah, that's the thing about getting all these old games running is, unfortunately, it challenges and calls back all my experience of getting old games running, because there's all sorts of unofficial ones that you can get going. So my confidence level is pretty murky on a lot of these, but I've gotten a few running that weren't listed. Like again, Sin episodes. I got Kingpin running. I want to replay that one again. That's one that had kind of a cool atmosphere, kind of this grimy city thing. I'm gonna try to get some of the old Need for Speed games running. I mean, come on, 3 and 4 and Porsche Unleashed. Those get really scenic. I mean, they're dated graphics. See, now I'm got back to VR. All right. Okay, so Christmas game. Yeah, so generally snowy games. I am interested in Frostpunk because that fits the bill. Snowy game played during winter. I managed to pick up a copy of Steep. I got it on sale, and then because I spent so much time in the crew, I had these points that I can use to get a discount. So I think I got it for about $6 or something like that. So I want to play Steep. And I want to play Snow once it leaves early access. So let's see. Yeah, that's those will probably be next in line for my personal Christmas games when I get around to playing them. So yeah, though you know, I want another one like some of the tracks in Polaris Snowcross where you're kind of in the woods going up these hills and it kind of feels like you're deep in there. And I don't think either of those have that. Those are more like kind of open side of the mountain games, which are still fun, but you know, I'd like to see more of that sort of thing. So it's its own atmosphere, hiking in the woods in the snow, you know, or going off on a snowmobile on some fire road or something like that. So let's see. So yeah, maybe I'll probably try Snow once it leaves early access, but or maybe it's left and I haven't checked up on it. Okay, we got another one of these because it's too hard. Maybe I'll make a list sometime, but described by genres, development focus, and mechanics, what would be your dream game? You know, I'd have multiple ones. You know, I mean, something probably like Project Zomboid is certainly one of them. I haven't played it, but from what it is, it might be close. Uh, Another where I think it's probably what some people wanted out of No Man's Sky, but I wouldn't mind something like that where you have, I think I mentioned before, where you have maybe like you have sort of known space where you have like science fiction where you have these space bases, some political stuff going on, some storylines, that sort of thing. But then like the farther out you get into space, the crazier things get. So kind of science fantasy sort of thing. I'm sure I would eat up a game like that. Let's see. So yeah, somebody's mentioning Dual Universe. Yeah, that's on my list of games to check out eventually. Somebody's mentioned. Yeah. Let's. So what another theme? I like ones that kind of. I like games that kind of start off a little more tame, but then end up in just crazy places. Like again, I feel like it sort of fell apart, but I was hoping the game Fahrenheit, or it's also called Indigo Prophecy, was going to be like that, and it sort of was, and it sort of wasn't. But you know, just start off with like a normal adventure, then you end up with just this separate reality and other dimensional stuff. Like I like seeing that descent into maybe not madness exactly, but just sort of the descent into maybe like a darker science fantasy sort of thing. I don't know. I have to think of some others, but those sorts of themes just just hook me right away. But then again, I like open world driving stuff. I like that you can see a lot of nice locations. Yeah, actually, it's not open world or anything, but I kind of like those. I can sometimes like it when they go a little bit over the top too, because like I played Outrun 2006 earlier this year, and yeah, it's a simple game, but it's like, man, I was loving the environments. I mean, yeah, it's this arcade sort of theme park style version of it. I mean, man, I'd love to have something more like this, just where I could just drive off anywhere, and it wasn't quite as linear as that game, but you have this kind of wild variety in the environments and that sort of thing. I would probably like a lot of MMOs if they like sort of had much more palpable combat for me, or game mechanics that I meshed with. Because I don't know, I tend to butt heads on a lot of MMOs as far as the mechanics. Like I like the theme and I like the size, but then kind of throw me off. But then the combat feels like such a grind. Okay, well those are a few ideas. Have you seen any of the Grimbeard Diary reviews? Grimbeard Diaries? No, I haven't. I can check that out. Any words of wisdom? And they mentions a range of people that really stuck with you or made a large impact on your life. No, I'd say it's more like simple things. Let's see. Again, it's dumb coming from a song, but I mentioned it in the birthday video. I really do appreciate that saying in the Orbital video. It's better to regret something you have done than to regret something you haven't done. I've certainly thought of that many times. I guess the stuff I find kind of, I don't know, maybe inspirational stuff that just it makes you want to just do more things, like try to just accomplish more things. not necessarily like formal accomplishment, but just kind of push ahead until you can. I feel like some. Okay, here. Let me get that. Let me get that. I don't know a whole lot else about the president, but Calvin Coolidge has a quote I really like that I think it's great. I don't necessarily remember this quote. I think I mentioned this in the chats before, but this mentality, I feel like there's a lot of truth to it. Okay, this is by Calvin Coolidge. Nothing in this world can take the place of persistence. Talent will not. Nothing is more common than unsuccessful men with talent. Genius will not. Unrewarded genius is almost a proverb. Education will not. The world is full of educated derelicts. Persistence and determination alone are omnipotent. And man, that's some good advice to go by. I've found there's a lot of truth to that. Just to not get hung up too much about doing things inefficiently, or maybe you went down the wrong path on something and then you could have spent that time better. Just keep at it. Just keep throwing yourself at stuff until it works. I've also, somebody says translate to simpleton, please. Sure. I've made this term up, or I think I did. I call it machine gun theory. You fire enough times at something, you'll hit what you're aiming for. So, yeah. So let's see. Yeah. So for thoughts of idea, yeah, I think that there's truth to that. Just keep. Don't worry about efficiency or if you screwed up, or I mean, worry too much. Obviously, you should worry a little bit if you screwed up something important, but just try not to get weighed down by that and just try to keep pushing forward on things that you want to do. What do you think about Fallout 76 and its whole controversy? I think it's quite amusing, actually. It's rare that you see a AAA studio screw up this badly, because it happened on almost every front. And I was thinking, like, what did they do right? Let's start with what did they do right? And what I came up with was their live action commercial was pretty great. Hey, yeah, go watch the Fallout 76 commercial. I thought it was good. Even though I've heard that song too many times that they're using, it's still a great commercial. So I guess they had their marketing good on that front. I've heard the music is good, though. Honestly, the Fallout series, at least under Bethesda, hasn't really won me over on the music in general. It's too kind of vague and not pronounced enough to really. But people are saying it's good, so maybe it's good. And I said this in the. Oh yeah, I did a live stream playing one of the fan-made Castlevania things on the Accursed Farms Junk channel. I mentioned this in there. I was saying, I hope this doesn't discourage people from the setting of West Virginia, because West Virginia is absolutely gorgeous. I'd love to see more games set in that part of the world. Yeah, again, it's about, for part of where I grew up, I was about 45 minutes from the border, something like that. So, it's pretty similar to part of the world where I'm from. So I hope that I hope game makers don't look at this and think, oh no, we shouldn't set that in West Virginia because Fallout 76 screwed up. But that wasn't the problem. The setting's not the problem. But yeah, I've heard, because it has, okay, some people are saying it's ugly. Maybe they're exaggerating, I think, because I did see texture pop in, but there are some places that look good too. But it did have that kind of mod feel to it more than something that feels like it was organically engineered for it, because I'm the sort of person who doesn't care whether the lighting is pitch perfect quality or the textures are, completely sharp or anything, as long as it has good art design. And some of the shots seem to have good art design. But it did have problems too. So it had problems on the graphics. The gameplay is just it would be it would be an issue even as an early access game. The stability's problem. The the performance is really bad from what I'm hearing. So it's man, they checked every box almost for what they did wrong. So it's impressive. You don't normally see because a lot of games screw ups that get like a lot of blowback. It's easy to see like what went wrong. With Fallout 76, it's not even there's no one thing, I don't think, except maybe don't make a multiplayer game or but if this launched as a single player game, it'd still have issues, you know? Uh like with Diablo Immortal. Yeah, here, launch that alongside Diablo 3 expansion. Problem solved, you know? Or what? The Call of Duty Infinite Warfare. A lot of people didn't like that. Don't make your mainstay military franchise, don't turn that into Star Wars. Make that a separate intellectual property. Boom, problem solved, you know? It's some of these screw ups, you can just point to one thing. It's easy. Fallout 76, it's like, okay, we want to make a multiplayer Fallout, okay, but then we have all these bad decisions. So the people who have covered this much better than I have. I've just been sort of listening to some of them because they're kind of entertaining for me hearing it. I don't know. Part of me enjoys watching screw ups on like a grand scale, and I think that's what this is, at least in gaming. Ross, how do you feel about Elon Musk? Do you think he's a real life James Bond villain waiting to happen, or it might have some real positive impact on the species overall? Well, I don't know a ton about. Okay, maybe people can fill me in on the chat. I know he's been pushing trying to sell electric cars. He's doing the SpaceX stuff, and he's doing that. He wants to do that tunnel to make like a hyper rail or something in parts of California. He's a billionaire. He smoked weed on a podcast and that caused stock to plummet. I don't know a lot else about what he's doing. It sounds, based on what I know, maybe people can correct me. Okay, he's saying also self-driving cars. Okay, well, that would be good. I guess based on what I know, it sounds like he's sort of a traditional kind of capitalist, just focused on technology. Because traditionally, what you do when you make a lot of money as a capitalist, you invest a lot of that, especially in technology, in research and development, and trying to get more branches of like possible future income. Some will fail, some will be prosperous. Whereas more modern times, the tendency is to just focus on like short-term earnings or immediate payoff. So that means more risk averse. I mean, I don't know if I don't think I'm informed enough on them to know whether. I mean, real positive impact on the species overall. I think that might be a stretch. I mean, it's because I think we're at a point now in history where even like better technology, if you look at self-driving cars would be good, but electric cars they're good, but it's like the problem's getting too big, I think. But like I would be much more optimistic if it was like 30 years ago that he was doing all this stuff. But yeah, I don't know, maybe. It's not like clear cut to me either way. Like some stuff is an improvement, but then if you look at how it plays out after you have the technology, it's a little iffier to predict. It's like, okay, it's like one of the Dead Game News videos I think I did where I mentioned that, Yeah, somebody's saying traditional capitalist and late stage capitalist society. Yeah, it's sort of like that. I mentioned that, you know, unless something is, the benefits are so obvious to solve some of our biggest problems. And I think our biggest problems now are just kind of the scale that we're operating at for everything, which there's not a lot of easy technological solutions to that. It's more kind of social structure solutions, or education, that sort of thing. Where's I going with my train of thought on this? I had it. I wish I could replay back the last 10 seconds. Somebody saying, yeah, it was somebody saying there's too many of us. Yeah, okay, yeah, that's what I was getting at. Okay, yeah, I showed a clip from the Andromeda strain in one of the Dead Game News videos where sometimes it's more beneficial to have, be it real obvious, there's no immediate solution, and that can scare people into moving more towards real solutions, rather than have something that helps a little bit but not enough, and then that kind of calms you into sort of more complacency and to thinking that things are going to be okay. So that even though in the short term the small improvements are better, in the long term they create it worse because they can sort of prevent us from facing the problem sooner. And whereas you have something that's worse in the short term, sometimes that can be better in the long term because it makes you address the problem sooner. So that's what I was getting at. So I imagine all his technological developments probably are good in the short term. Whereas in the long term, it's hard for me to say. Like an easy example of this is that, like with fuel efficiency, like for cars. On face value, fuel efficiency sounds great because, we'll use less gas, so that means less pollution, more conservation resources. How can you not like that? Well, what that ends up leading to is lower gas prices because not as much is used. So that actually puts more people on the road. So that increases consumption and pollution and everything. So it's like you need to, it's kind of a long-term sort of chess strategy thing, way to look at what tactics get you to the desired outcome. So it's not always obvious. It depends what time span you're looking at. That makes a big difference. And of course, the farther off you get in the future, the more fuzzy things get, unless they're just concrete, no, this will happen kind of information. Like again, if a meteor's coming at the Earth, yeah, we even if it's 50 years off, you know what? The rotation of the Earth, the orbit path of the Earth isn't going to change. So you know what? We can still make these really solid assumptions. With other things, well, maybe this will flow this way, maybe it won't. So yeah. Try to look at it how a time traveler might. And you can get closer to what might happen. Let's see. I was checking to see what the comments are saying about Musk. And I did bring him up in the Robot Jobs video just because I think that is a trend among some tech moguls, that they'll just have these a little bit, they'll have optimistic ideas, but then they get kind of delusional about things too, where like for instance, going to Mars, that's something that would be very cool, but as far as practical value, I know of almost none, and we have really important real world problems now. I mean, if you really want to go to Mars, there's plenty of space in like the Sahara Gobi Desert or Antarctica, or and those are way more hospitable than Mars. So that's it's kind of a fantasy. I mean, it's a fun idea, and sure, send probe there, learn more about it, but it's more symbolic than anything else, taking bigger steps towards that, unless we find a friggin' monolith or something. So okay, I should keep moving on. Okay, it's been 2 hours, so I'm just gonna start being picky on the questions. Any thoughts on YouTube Rewind 2018 being the most disliked video of all time and reaching 10 million dislikes in less than 6 days? I did not know that. To be honest, I'm kind of out of the. I tend to be out of the loop on a lot of YouTuber culture. I mean, there's a few YouTuber videos I'll watch every now and then, especially if it's a game-related sort of thing. But I don't have time to keep up on all of it. So I have no idea what they're doing with it, but YouTube has certainly made missteps before, so I have to imagine it's something pretty tone deaf for that to happen. So I don't know what's in it. I don't know. I'm guessing there's some controversy, that sort of thing. Yeah, that might be worth looking up. What are the most disliked videos on YouTube? I think I know well, hey, I mentioned Infinite Warfare. That was up there. The Ghostbusters remake one. That one just was through the roof. Let's see. There were some others. Yeah, I'm trying to remember others that got just solid thumbs down. Okay, let's see. Okay, so let me pick the questions here. Okay, somebody's saying I mentioned this earlier, but yeah, for my opinion on games being updated to change or remove content due to licensing contracts, like music being removed from the game, all the more reason I wish. Part of me misses the old patch system where you start with the game at 1.0 and then you have to patch it yourself. I'd say that I think the best compromise to that scenario, or just in general, like, again, this gets harder for MMOs, but for any game that's not an MMO, the best compromise is let the developers do what they want. You know, if they want to change things or whatever, go ahead. But then give the player base the option to only use an older patch if they want, especially if it's like a single player game. So they don't have to host it. They can, somebody can put it a torrent of the patch, of the old one, so you can always go back if there's some fundamental changes, but the developers can kind of keep moving forward with their vision of it or whatever. So I think that's sort of the everybody wins scenario. I don't know what a side duck is. I mean, at face value, it sounds like a psychic duck, but I imagine a duck would just probably shove me back. So how many could I take in a fight? I don't know. Like, how many ducks ramming you would it take to knock you down in a fight? I mean, maybe, but if they're telekinetically projecting themselves at you, then maybe you get the full force. So probably not more than 12, I would think. Because at that point, they could just have me pinned down completely. And this is my interpretation of a psychic duck. Okay. If you can magically and instantly transform between being a human and 3 animal forms, which animals would you choose? And I like how they have no extinct species. Like this is an important clarifier. I would have no idea, so I think I would just go with the vampire standard. Bat, wolf, and I guess rat. What works for vampires, good enough for me. Oh, somebody's mentioning there's been a lot of improvements to PlanetSide 2, and yeah, they launched that arena thing. So should we consider doing that again? I guess we might. Maybe not. I don't know if I want to do the arena one. We'll see how that goes. But well, let me ask you guys, because on one hand, I'm thinking, sure, like, let's do PlanetSide. It's this big giant game. On the other hand, NCSoft is becoming one of the bigger offenders of killing games, so I don't want to reward them. So I don't know. It's PlanetSide 2 I won't be doing multiplayer like this, but PlanetSide 2 is another game I mean, real multiplayer. I still have to connect. That's another game I want to do in Vorpex with the VR because it works for that. But yeah, we could. I think they made a change that made the fights more fun. So I don't know. Yeah, they're adding like a battle royale thing. So I'm not interested in the battle royale thing. Sorry, but the big battles, sure. Yeah, so maybe we'll see what the fan base wants. If have you seen the new Outer Worlds announcement? I saw the trailer. It it didn't wow me. Maybe it's still pretty good. It's because I mean some games like from the I don't know. I felt like it wasn't. It just sort of felt like this sort of low key Western thing, sort of with sci-fi. It kind of reminded me a little bit of the Borderlands Telltale game. I played some of the first one. Uh, I don't know. It could be great, or it could just be not my thing. I would need to know more, but because some games you see them and you're just like wowed immediately. That one didn't quite do it for me. Will you do a game dungeon on Dex? Maybe. I don't know. It's a good game. Did you get a chance to see the game Ruiner? Yeah, I got a chance to play some of that. It felt the setting was neat, but I felt like the story was like a little too bare, and the gameplay was I don't know, it just didn't quite grab me. So I sort of cool atmosphere, but I sort of gave up on it. Okay, somebody's asking if they gift me a game on Steam if I'll do a review of it. There's no guarantee of that, guys. Sorry. Please do not gift me games if you're expecting me to do a game dungeon. I wouldn't be able to keep up. I'm not against gifted games, but it's like I need when I'll get around to playing it is a big unknown. I actually have somebody who gifted me Resident Evil 0, and that's a game I want to play, and I still haven't got around to it. And that was just many months back. So I'm afraid it's not very satisfying on your end to just gift me the game that I play right away. Somebody's saying Resident Evil 7 has mold monsters. And they're asking if that'll be too close to home for me. No, if I don't smell the mold, it's no problem. If my air is clean, I'm not distressed by mold. That's what it is. So, okay, I'm gonna start picking some now. Let's see. Looks like he's asking for my opinion on the Source Engine 2. He thinks they've gotten complacent because they're not struggling enough with Valve. He's saying, I believe that the Okay, was he asking a question or just giving? Yeah, I think Source 2 isn't going to be much of a savior of anything. I think Unreal and Unity for just most. I mean, maybe there's a couple other ones, but it's like those are catered for making games. So, and Source is just sort of you're hammering it in there nowadays. I actually do agree with him on this, despite being kind of a fanatic. He says he believes that the market for VR is grossly over-exaggerated, and even if the barriers to entry were lowered for mainstream use, it would never take off, since most people wouldn't want to wear it attached to their face. I think VR has not hit its peak user base yet. However, it probably is going to remain somewhat of a niche in the future, because there is a barrier to entry for sure. I mean, and even, like, let's say the price gets low, it gets streamlined. It's still not for everybody. You know, you have the motion sickness, and you're not going to have as many games which are well funded of it's a smaller market, so you're not going to have the same sort of resources being thrown at those kinds of games. It doesn't mean you can't have good ones, but this thing, well, hey, I said it in the 3D video. I had no idea how big it was going to be, but there will be a die hard, uh, there will be a die hard niche of people. So that's good enough for me, as long as it's not going to die out. I don't think. I mean, compared to anything else in gaming. So I think VR is definitely here to stay. However, yeah, it could definitely be over exaggerated how much market penetration there will be. So, but but hey, it's the friggin' Nexus for me when I get it. So that's good enough for me. As long as I can get back to the Nexus, that's what I'm after. Okay, I'm starting to skip a few. Let's see. So he's asking if I would create my own clone army. Will you make them look like yourself or someone else entirely? Well, they wouldn't really be clones then, would they? I mean, if I could clone myself, I'd certainly be tempted to get. I mean, maybe not an army's worth, but a small team. Oh man, videos I could get so much done, and have more time. So. Oh yeah, yeah. This is a good question. I wanted to ask the audience. You can, since I'll go with the live chat, you can put your vote in the numbers. They're asking why aren't you using aspect ratios other than 16:9 for the game dungeon anymore, even if the game isn't 16:9? The reason I did that is sometimes I was having a lot of supplemental examples from other games or videos, and then it felt kind of awkward for me to kind of shrink that down to meet 4:3. Okay, so put your vote. For games that applies to, would you rather have 4:3 or 16:9, or for some of the DOS games, the 16:10 look better? So just put 4:3 or 16:9 in the chat, and or if you people have strong opinions on that, let me know. Somebody's saying 1:1, 4:3. Oh, it's down the center. It looks like. Okay, 16:9 seems to be pulling ahead. So somebody's saying 16:9 because they always watch a full screen. Well, if the software is doing its job, it should look the same on a 16:9 monitor. But let's see. Okay, somebody's saying 16:9 always displays weird on their smart TV. It doesn't. And we have a vote for Nazi moon monkeys. I think 16:9 might be. It's pulling ahead, but not by a lot. So I don't know. If I feel like I just have no supplemental examples that to really use the 16:9, then maybe I'll do another one like that. Oh, they have a 4:3 monitor for one person. Yeah, I think we have to put up a poll. It's too close to tell. I think if I had to guess, it's looking like 60% saying 16:9, but yeah, we have one for 21:9. But yeah, I don't know if I'm going to that. I think I'd rather go to triple monitor before the ultra wide. I saw the ultra wide in the store and it just felt weird. But I'm worried that a triple monitor setup would leave me feeling bombarded after a day of using them. So I don't know. Oh, okay. Daniel's the moderator. He says he can create a straw poll. I think Daniel has a triple monitor setup. Maybe we can get his opinion on it. Do you feel overwhelmed? If anyone has a triple monitor setup, do you feel overwhelmed from it, like working on it all day, or somebody's saying it's pretty great? Okay, what's your opinion on the increasingly popular trend of companies remaking their older games? It's I don't have an issue with it, but it doesn't really get me that excited about it unless there's like a special circumstance. I feel like the older the game, the more interested I am in that. So if like graphics were really kind of holding back the original, so 90s era stuff, uh, then sure. Okay, somebody's saying that. Well, somebody's mentioning 2 monitors. I don't think I want two. I want either 1 or 3. I want the symmetry, you know. Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, you know what? I think I thought about this before, and I decided. Well, the main reason I want 3 monitors. I mean, it'd be nice for some multitasking stuff, but for gaming, it'd be more immersive. But then I think the conclusion I came to is like, screw it. I'll just do VR for immersion. So, okay, my voice is getting a little rough. So let me look down the list here. This is it's a good question, but it's towards the bottom. I don't know. They're saying like, this is like ever since VR was almost squashed by the big developers that were stuck in this weird console war with mobile gaming, loot boxes, and DLC strangling consumers for all they're worth. How do you think the gaming industry needs to evolve in order to progress beyond this weird problematic area? Well, these are two different questions almost, because VR is kind of in a separate category. For stuff in general with loot boxes and DLC and everything, I kind of feel like they just need to fight it out. Although I feel like the market is not going to solve it, and fingers crossed, the law needs to step in somewhere. Not necessarily globally, but somewhere with killing games. Because the loot boxes are a perfect example of that. Most countries are just like, maybe they're gambling, maybe they're not. Belgium's like, no, you're breaking the law. It's loot boxes, and we're going to fight you on that. That's going to have, and EA is fighting them on that. If they lose that, that's going to have a chilling effect across the whole industry. So we don't need, that's exactly my strategy for trying to stop games from being killed. And see, the thing is, once you stop games from being killed, a lot of these problems with that are kind of connected. Like with with mobile gaming, if they know they have to back it up and have a working copy, they might have to put more effort into it. It might not make it a completely throwaway thing. Or for loot boxes, if they know they have to make good on their promise for being able to access that stuff afterwards, then that would make it a lot more consumer friendly, and then maybe you get some push towards it. And actually, maybe not. I think there is a logic here, but I think I'm doing it the wrong way. I have to focus my thoughts on that. But for other things, okay, see, I guess for loot boxes and DLC and, aggressive microtransactions, okay, we have 75% for 16 by 9. So sorry, guys, it's probably going to stay like that unless I feel really motivated not to. But like for something like, what was it? Go to Hell. That one, I'm glad I kept the aspect ratio where it was. Okay, so let's say games just get even more aggressive with loot boxes and DLC and everything. Well, if they get so bad with it, that creates this opening for all these other sort of mid-tier games that people are sick of. It's like, hey, guess what? Our games don't do that. Hey, it's free. I haven't played it. I'm assuming Subnautica doesn't have loot boxes or microtransactions, or if they do have they'll probably have an expansion rather than a DLC if they have one. So that's like your kind of classic, I'm guessing, I could be wrong. That's your kind of classic game experience. So there's games like that emerging in the space that the heavyweights are fighting in and just making gaming looking terrible. Meanwhile, there's all these smaller scale games that are gonna be emerging that could be great. So I'm fine with the market kind of sorting it out on that. Like again, for loot boxes and gambling, I don't have a strong. I don't like it, but I don't have a strong opinion on that either way. I'm fine with whatever people decide on that. The issue where I just draw the line on is killing games you paid for that you can never play again, but by design. So if you can solve that, that kind of, I think that might solve some other things, because loot boxes are pretty much inherent to online only games, and those they have no protection at all. So if they actually have to look after this stuff, it might promote more conscientious. Maybe not. That might be too much of a stretch, but I know I had some logical argument with that somewhere. That was my logic. If you can go after loot boxes with the same logic that you use for not killing games. So the idea is you paid money for it, now the game's shut down, you have nothing. Well, they ripped you off. Well, loot boxes, every game just about, that's part of loot boxes. You know, well, they're online only. Oh, the game's not doing well. Okay, we're shutting it down. All your money you spent on that's gone. So if you're trying to come out against loot boxes, coming out against games being killed is another way of getting there, at least for the present. So. Okay, yeah, so, yeah, I keep getting, yeah, I'm going on 2.5 hours here. All right, let's see. Are you excited for any of the games that were announced at the Game Awards? I'm not even sure what all of them were. There was some, yeah, okay, there's the Outer Worlds one. There was like 20 seconds of a picture of a sword or something for Dragon Age. So, I need to check and see what all of them are. I'm sure if they're good ones, they'll trickle down to me eventually from news. I've been sort of behind on catching up on game news. Someone wants to add Martian Gothic to the request list. I have played that, but I haven't beaten it. That one might get a game dungeon eventually, because there's mentions. There's some stuff that probably only affected me or just a few other people that would be interesting for people to see. I have played Hard Truck Apocalypse. Someone was asking about that. We're getting a lot of like general questions. If I see ones I really like, then I'll jump on them. Let's see. Someone's asking what I think about video game bosses. I feel like video game, if you have the type of game that has a boss, because not all games need bosses or should have bosses, but if you have a boss, that's where I like to see games go over the top. Like let's, so like Serious Sam or Painkiller, or just try to just wow the player, or with how many enemies are coming at you. I mean those have the advantage of that they're gigantic, but you can still do just go nuts. Just go nuts on your bosses. Because again, not all games need bosses, but if you're going to have them, or actually the end, I guess I won't spoil it for people, but the ending of Warhammer Space Marines, it's not that the boss is so over the top. It's not like the very final conflict. It's awesome. Like that's the way they handle it. So just go over the top on boss fights. Yeah, don't hold back anything. All right, I'll start taking questions from the audience. Have 3 equal signs, and then put your question. I'll get to what I can. Oh, and Microsoft has admitted they're testing unstable Windows 10 updates on regular users. So, okay. Yeah, I'm not surprised. Do you have any plans on eventually switching to Windows 10? Yes, but that's a very, the best, I thought about it. I'm really gonna, basically, if I'm running Windows 10, I'm going to ensure that it does not update without me giving permission. And that is not an easy task with Windows 10 because while some argue, oh, that's going to be a security risk, I imagine they've patched a whole hell of a lot by now. Plus, the risk of it wrecking my system or causing problems while I'm in the middle of the project is infinitely higher than some rogue exploit actually making its way to me through antivirus, through just having smart usage habits, that sort of thing, through a firewall. So it's, and I realize what it reminds me of. And I think Warhammer, maybe Dungeons and Dragons, I think you have these rituals where you can summon a demon, but you have to bind it, and so that it's, yeah, so that it's safe, and it's like almost a stereotype that in these types of games that something goes wrong with that. That's what it reminds me of. It's like, well, theoretically, if we follow all these procedures and bind the demon properly, it won't get loose and kill us all. But like, that's what my transition to Windows 10 is going to remind me. I realize it's the same thought process, just of binding a demon. Okay, let me look at the questions now. Would you be able to handle a reality where you need to control all of your internal organs manually so long as you're awake? That's something I don't really want to think about, to be honest. I'm going to skip one. Like, we have a more overtly political one I want to skip, so let's see. It's not that the question is so inflammatory, it's that it sparks another chain of thought that requires a lot of explanation, debate, and everybody getting upset. So it's not the question itself, but I will give the movie status report next video chat. It's not where I want it to be, I'll say that, but yeah, I guess the spoiler. It's not where I want it to be, but I'm the fire is absolutely within me to keep going at this. So I'm half. It's a three-way combination of disappointed, embarrassed, and frustrated. But I'm not gonna let any of it keep me down, and just I'm gonna plow ahead. It's a ratio where I've unfortunately had to sacrifice more on it to keep making the videos than I wanted to keep making the shorter term videos. Ross, what do you think about the European Union crumbling down? I haven't followed much of that. If there's one thing I want to come out of the European Union, it's the environmental regulations, because I mean, yeah, Poland, because hey, Poland, I think they're getting fined for being in violation of that, and they should be. I mean, for air quality. And on some days, it's as bad in parts of Poland as parts of China, like the industrial sections, like in Beijing and stuff. And I mean, unfortunately, that is a political issue, but I really wish it wasn't. Just, hey, let's have sane standards for polluting the air and water, For the rest of it, I haven't kept up on it enough. I think we're going to see a lot of shifts in like traditional powers as time goes on. Some of them will be gradual, some will be more overt. Have you seen the Freak Out Extreme Freeride ending that was on YouTube now? Yeah, I'll have that in the follow-up video. My memory was a little bit off. It was a little bit off. It was sort of halfway there. I have not played Space Station 13 yet. A bunch of people have recommended it, so I should probably play it at some point. What do you think of people who have an addiction to Second Life and vicariously live through avatars? You know what? Find meaning where you can, man. It's not my thing, and I think my life would be better spent in other ways, but you know, find meaning where you can. I have not played SWAT 3 or 4. I've heard those are good though. I think 4 especially, but one of the devs of Quarantine was in the YouTube comments. Did you ever contact him for an interview? No, I wasn't aware of that. I have to look at that. How you doing, Ross? It's complicated question, I guess. I kind of even don't want to get into the real answer. So. I have not heard of the Call of Cthulhu story by Old Man Henderson. I know the one by Lovecraft, but I answered the Counter-Strike thing. I think it's fine if it's going free to play. I guess the inclusion of a Battle Royale mode was inevitable, but I'm not against people making Battle Royale games. I just don't really care about them. So, will you stream more of Lacard Chronicles? Yeah, I did the first mount with you. I should finish it off. Oh, somebody's mentioning for the Windows 10, you'll probably need Windows Server for that. And maybe, I don't, if you can even, yeah, although I got to make sure that works for like regular applications too. Actually, what I've heard is there's ways of sort of defanging it, the update almost. And then what a friend of mine did was he did all the procedures that you do to turn it off, because there's all sorts of tricks, and I think they change it for Windows 10 periodically with different versions. And then what he did, he went in, he booted off a Linux CD and then deleted a couple core files to keep it from updating off of that. So maybe I have to go down that road, because if you just tell Windows Update to stop, my understanding for Windows 10, it'll come back on at some point. So I have played Dying Light, or started to. It's something I kind of gave up on after a while. I cannot explain why, but something about it just didn't click with me. I mean, the parkour was excellent. I kind of liked the beginning, but it just, for some, see, sometimes I don't like something, or I really like something, I can't even explain why, and it was like that. It just didn't grab me. I don't know. I mean, I guess I didn't really feel that invested in the story, or the danger didn't feel real enough. Not that it didn't feel hard enough, but it didn't feel like real enough, like for how everybody's reacting, and like I don't know. Or maybe they needed more stuff at the home base to kind of calm you down from going out of your safe shell out into the world to make it feel better. So I don't know. And the writing wasn't particularly winning me over, so. Have you started preparing for Christmas in Poland? Almost not at all. I'm trying to do videos to save Christmas for everybody else. Thankfully, my wife really enjoys buying presents, so that's she's handling everything just about for that. I do have to make a present for my mother. This is one I can handle. There's one game, she plays Scrabble, and then there's another old game that she likes. It's like Bush Book Charms, Dodo Eggs, and something else. It's this trivia game where you go traveling around the globe. It's an old DOS game, and her problem is the transitions for the planes take too long. So I've got to implement some sort of version of DOSBox with like a frame skip option for her so she can speed that up. I'm pretty sure I can handle that. So that'll be an easy present for me. I have not heard of the Pets Cop web series. Oh, okay. The explanation is not what I thought of at all. Unfinished PlayStation 1 game. Okay, well, it sounds like it might be interesting then. What genre of game do you like the most? I don't know if I have any one genre. I mean, I guess it would be, I mean, it sort of depends what mood I'm in. Again, themes I can kind of get on board more because I'd rather go with a theme I like and a genre I'm not crazy about than one where I like the genre but the theme doesn't get me. But I mean, I like first-person shooters, real-time strategy, uh, some graphic adventure games, puzzle games if they have like a little more dressing to go with it, you know, like a little storyline or interesting things to unlock. Uh, some sort of action adventure games. It depends. I, I like a lot, and you know, driving games where I like the environment, that sort of thing. Yeah, yeah. So, the mood and the feel of the game gets to me a lot more than the genre. Although, if it's a genre that I have a rough time with, that can be a wall. Like turn-based combat games and 4X games and hardcore space sim games can all be like that. Where it's like, man, I want to like this game, but geez, you know, it's, this can be harder for me to get into. What do you think of the downfall of AAA companies? EA, Valve, Blizzard, and Bethesda have screwed their fans with bad business decisions. I think people are going to keep coming back until until they don't dominate the marketing, pretty much. So, it's going to, but on the other side, you're going to have games that are not as marketed. They're not marketed as well because they don't have the resources. I think you're going to have lots of great games on that front. What do you think about Metro 2033 getting shelved for attempting to Americanize the source material? Sounds bad from how you describe it. I mean, I'm sure there's a few exceptions, but in general, Americanizing something probably isn't gonna end well. I would say an exception would be, let's say it's a brutally difficult Japanese platformer or something. Okay, if you need to Americanize that or have an American version, all right, I'm all right with that because sometimes you get just psychotic difficulty. But if it's like compromising the story, you know, and just going for like cliched Hollywood stuff, I'd say it's a bad sign. Okay, somebody's asking about Steam Curator. I don't have plans to be a Steam Curator, but I have something else I think people will appreciate in the future. Did you catch the Game Awards this past week? No, I don't care at all. Like I mean, I guess I care in the sense that I want to be aware of like what games exist that I might be interested in playing, and if a bunch of people are saying they're great, sure. But I don't care what game won what award. This isn't like the official game. This goes for like anything. I mean, so what? Like, I guess it's if you're the developer, then yeah, you'd have some vested interest in giving some recognition. But the thing is, those things are gonna the big ones are gonna omit so many games just right out the gate, so that it's just gonna be like which games get the most marketing and attention anyway. So. Okay, yeah, somebody's saying keep using Windows 7 till you can. I'm gonna make a big video related to all of this that I think some people might find pretty helpful, actually. So that's coming at some point. Definitely not this month, but hopefully within the next couple months. And this video is going to help me too for making kind of an informed decision on everything. What's your favorite build engine game? I don't know a lot. I mean, there's Duke Nukem. Was Blood a build engine or is that Doom? No, I think Blood was build engine. I think Power Slave was Doom and not legit. And then there's that new one. Yeah, maybe I'll try that sometime. The Iron Maiden. Yeah, I don't know. Blood, which I still need to beat. So, would you be willing to give Yakuza 0 a playthrough? Maybe. Eh, I don't know. I'm finding myself gravitating towards games that are kind of more fantastical, or just out there, and that's going to be kind of more grounded in reality. So it's not that I won't play those games, but it's like they need to work harder to sort of sell me on it. Are you going to make anyone a Christmas brick? No, I don't. I'm thankful my wife enjoys getting people presents. So, do you like card games? They're not the sort of thing I seek out, but they can be good for like if you just don't have a lot of time, you just want to kill time all briefly, then those can be all right. Card games are kind of the closest I get to sort of casual games, I guess. Ross, I was thinking my friend and I can have you in a documentary for the mastermind you used to talk to. Would you like to join? If you want me in a documentary or something, I guess I could show up. But it's like I'm stretched a little thin. So, I mean, of course, if you really want to do a documentary on it, yeah, I guess I'll do that. But it's not. Don't for anybody doing anything that you want me in video. It's not that I think, oh, I'm too good for your stuff. No, it's just a matter of time allocation. So I mean, sure, I can probably do something for that. They recently acquired a modern deck game that cannot be legit purchased beyond key scalpers. Droplets. Any interest or advice? Maybe. I mean, it just depends on the game. I'm not interested in the games because they're dead. It's more like it's a complete slap to the face of me when a game I'm interested in dies. So that makes me kind of just being against the practice in general. There's plenty of games that die that, in all truthfulness, I personally don't really care. However, I see the bigger picture of what's happening. So that's what makes me not want. And plus, I can appreciate that someone else loves a game that dies on it. So even if I don't care, well, why should their day be ruined by this, So, yeah, the OS video, that's coming, but it's lower priority than Freeman in the Christmas video, so. Have you tried out Rocket League? No, I'm not that interested in it. It just seems like, soccer with remote control cars that can fly around a little bit. I think I'd rather play either a deeper game or actual sports is what it comes down to. I'm not big on like sports games in general. What side are you on with the movie Dune? Yay or nay? I think it's pretty cool and imaginative, even if it veers from the. I feel like you have the best of both worlds because you have Dune the movie, which is kind of out there with it has like this sort of dark gothic sci-fi theme going on. It doesn't follow the book as well. And then you have the sci-fi like mini series that follows the book much more closely. So take your pick. You take what you want. So. Somebody's saying they can. Have you checked out Humble Bundle? Not lately. I don't know what's on there. I sometimes get the real cheap offers. Like I got one that was Tokyo 42. That was a game I was interested in. Geez, there was. I think there was another one I was interested in it. But anyway, it came to like $1. So. All right. Well, I'm caught up for the most part with the. So I'm saying actual sports games are now off limits with EA. You know what? They mean professional sports with the brand names. I guarantee you EA does not own football or, I mean, the actual sport football or basketball or something. So, however, the most of the audience that cares about that, they're going to want the teams they know and everything. So, Russ, how many hoops did you have to jump through to move to Europe? Many. In fact, I'm not sure I even would have made it successfully if she hadn't known a friend who also worked as an attorney who sort of specialized in helping foreigners, get the right forms and everything. It's staggering. Maybe if you talk to someone who is experienced, who has gone through the entire process and can tell you exactly every form you're going to need and which office you need to go to, you can do it without a lawyer. But I needed legal help for sure. Not to defend myself, just to understand the process. Because, I mean, it was massive. And I'm still dealing with the paperwork now. Somebody's saying I should have Freeman use the Southern accent. I think he did sneak it in there in one of the episodes when I was saying, when he's talking about riding the conveyor belt, he's thinking of the workers like, look, he's riding a conveyor belt. I've always wanted to do that. Let's see. Although that's not necessarily a Southern accent. I mean, a Southern accent, the sort of antebellum. Well, that can be a variety of voices. It's not necessarily the stereotypical country accent, but that you expect more from the Appalachia or parts thereof. Like Foghorn Leghorn. I love Foghorn Leghorn as a kid. Man, that actually makes me want to watch more of him. He was one of my favorite characters. All right, I think I better wind it down, guys. We're going almost 3 hours. What if the whole EA still killing games and stuff? Have you given up on it? No, not at all. Although I'm aiming higher than EA, but they're the easy. I'm probably gonna have to target them regardless, because I think for like mainstream big games, they may have killed off more than anybody else. I want to say NCSoft might be number 2 though. That's right. PlanetSide 2 is under. I think I might be getting NCSoft mixed up with Daybreak earlier. But so if I can actually make like a legal argument to the right organization somewhere, EA, if they need like an actual like company to target as a precedent for court law, EA would probably be my number 1 pick, because they have a track record of creating games that I lost my train of thought. That you have every expectation to assume they're going to die. They don't say when, and it's basically like in Australia, you have. There's a strong argument that you can get your money refunded if you bought a game that is shut down this way due to how basic games are considered products there. I plan on making a video more on that. But however, just getting a game refunded, that's not enough, because a minority of people are going to take advantage of that, and it's going to be hoops to go through, and that doesn't save the game. So what I'm hoping, if anybody has any experience with this, pretty much any country for making this argument, if your business model of your company is to make something that you will render unusable or defective, and you do not give a specified time period when that will happen, and the expectation is that it will not, yes, people can get a refund if they do it. But if you're making that your business model, so, we made a product, it failed, we didn't say when it was going to be good towards, and people were upset that it failed, but then get a refund. Okay, we're doing that again. We're doing that again. We're doing that again. If you can show a pattern of basically kind of abusive behavior, is there any precedent anywhere for like actually fining the company for bad business practices or that runs contrary to some law? Because it's not that you've violated it, it's that you're making a business model of violating it. So for any legal types that have any experience on that, any country, let me know if you think there might be an argument to be made there, even if it's kind of a long shot. Because I think that's the only way I'm going to be able to get something done on this. Seeing how the loot boxes are being handled, that gives me kind of hope. Not because I care about the gambling so much, even though that's probably really bad for some people. It's because I'm planning to take a similar approach to that. Loot boxes aren't going to get outlawed everywhere, but if they get outlawed in the right countries, that could shut them down for a lot of games. Same thing for killing off games. If it gets outlawed in the right countries, then that could shut down the practice. Which if it's planned from the design phase, wouldn't even be that big a deal. Wouldn't even hurt the companies that much. If from the beginning they know they need to have a version of this they have to release upon shutdown. Somebody's saying the problem is they will argue it's not a product but a service. I am totally fine with that. Look, I have a video for that. The thing is, it doesn't meet the standards of a service either. Fine, it's okay, a bit of a spoiler for a future video. Name me a service. I'll hold this off for another thing. That's what I'll leave it at. It doesn't meet the standards for a service either. The way games are operating now, you have less protections than a product or a service, and in many countries, it doesn't even matter because the way they're handled, it's defined as a product. Like the local law is defined that way. So they'll have to change the law of the countries they're selling in. So look, I'll take on the challenges. I need more legal knowledge for where it is. So yeah, if they want to make that argument, that is fine. I mean, and plenty of countries, that argument will not fly. It will just simply not fly. And in USA it might, but even then, it's okay. I've gone on too long. Expect something for Christmas from me. Hopefully, Freeman's Mind and a Christmas episode. That's what I'm hoping. If not, the Christmas episode with Freeman's Mind right behind it, just right behind it. So not another month. Yeah, I apologize profusely for that I even got this far. So, all right. Have a good Christmas. I'll have something with streaming. Probably not the date I mentioned, something after Christmas. Maybe I'll do something on my birthday too. Yeah, it's on the 28th. Yeah, you can watch the birthday video if you, yeah, the birthday video, you might find some stuff you like in there too, so. All right, see you later.